Shalom, everybody. I'm Barry Segal, and this is VFI News. I'm so happy to be with all of you. Now, you've been supporting this channel, and I encourage you to let others know. Give a thumbs up, subscribe, please, and spread the news globally. The big story this week is the shocking announcement by the International Criminal Court in the Netherlands that is issuing international arrest warrants for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant. Now, Hamas military chief Mohammed Deif, who the IDF has already reported to have been eliminated in the airstrike months ago, was also named as an apparent attempt by the ICC to appear even-handed. Well, meanwhile, there's talk of a ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah, while Hamas has been all but defeated in the Gaza Strip. All of that and more is just ahead on this week's edition of VFI News. We're doing a shorter version of the newscast this week because I'm on the road and my usual filming crew isn't with me. As I said in the introduction, the big story is this outrageous decision by the ICC, or the International Criminal Court, to issue arrest warrants for Israeli officials along with the Hamas terror leader who is already dead and buried and probably in hell for all we know. There are all kinds of moral and ethical issues with this, but before we even get into that, let's start with the fact that Israel is not a signatory to the so-called Rome Statute, which was the international treaty that established the ICC in 1998 and gives this court its authority and jurisdiction. As a side note, the United States and Russia both signed this treaty but later withdrew their signatures, and other major players, including China and India, never signed it to begin with. Other notable countries that never signed this treaty include Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, Malaysia, and Indonesia. That means, among other things, that the ICC has no legal authority to investigate or prosecute anyone in the territory of any of these countries. However, if a country is a signatory, makes a complaint about something it says happened on its territory, then the court can claim justification or jurisdiction. And signatory countries are theoretically obligated to honor arrest warrants issued by the ICC prosecutor. More about him. That's why the ICC could issue an arrest warrant for Russian President Vladimir Putin for alleged war crimes committed by military forces he ordered into Ukraine, which is a signatory to the Rome Statute. Now, following the issuance of this warrant, Putin has visited countries that were signatories and thus should have arrested him, but they didn't, for the obvious reason that Russia is a big, muscular country with a large population, money, military power, and other resources. So if the government of a smaller, less powerful country were to arrest the president of Russia, they could be sure to receive a brutally painful response from Moscow, and the ICC wouldn't be able to help them, yes. In other words, the age-old law of the jungle whereby the strong do what they can and the weak suffer what they must is still very much in effect, despite all the high-minded talk about international law and the community of nations and all that stuff. Well, with all that having been said, we come back to the Rome Statute and the jurisdiction it gives itself to investigate and even issue warrants to arrest people, including military officers and government officials who they think have broken the rules. The warrants that have been issued for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant are for war crimes and genocide, which they have been accused of having committed in the Gaza Strip. Now that's important because the Gaza Strip is not even a nation state, nor is the Palestinian Authority, which theoretically has administrative authority there, is not in charge. Never mind that the PA hasn't exercised any administrative authority in the Gaza Strip since Hamas violently took over that territory in the year 2007. Now, although the state of Palestine is recognized by many of the world's governments, it is not recognized by all of them, and even many of those who do recognize it, almost no one recognized Hamas as the legitimate governing authority in Gaza. So there's all kinds of legal murkiness and muddiness in this. But once again, the strong do what they can and the weak suffer what they must. Israel is not a large, rich, powerful country like Russia is, so if the ICC issues a warrant for the arrest of our head of state, there are many governments that will declare their readiness, even eagerness to act on those warrants. This includes the usual suspects like Ireland and Spain, who rarely miss an opportunity to express their contempt for Israel and thumb their nose at the United States as well. But it also comes with some surprises, like Canada, which under conservative governments in the past has been among Israel's closest friends and allies. Can't wait for elections in Canada, people. Of course, in the United States, I pledge allegiance to the flag. There have been many sharp denunciations of the ICC's actions and pledges that no Israeli official needs to fear being arrested if their plane lands there. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban, kol hakavod lo, as we say in Hebrew, to his respect, has gone a step further by pointedly inviting Netanyahu to come visit and making it clear that no actions would be taken against him during such a visit. In fact, we would love to visit Budapest, Hungary as well. We love that country and we love all of you. Thank you for being so much a friend of Israel. Netanyahu has himself had some choice words to say in his own defense, saying the ICC's move was an example of a moral bankruptcy that undermines the natural right of democracies to defend themselves against murderous terrorism. He added that the court has done little or nothing in response to real crimes of humanity being committed around the world. Quote, millions of innocent civilians have been murdered or displaced from their homes in Iran, Syria, Yemen, and other places. Instead of acting against these dark regimes, the court chose to level false accusations against the state of Israel, the only democracy in the Middle East, he continued. Citizens of Israel, no outrageous anti-Israel decision will prevent us and will not prevent me from continuing to defend our country in every way, said Netanyahu. Gallant also spoke up, posting on X, that he was proud of the extraordinary privilege he had in leading Israel's defense establishment during our hardest hour, fighting a war on 7 fronts. Kol hakavod, also with good respect and honor to Gallant. Now, to make a quick comment of my own here, having lived in Israel for several decades now, I can tell you that this country is not perfect, and the actions of the IDF in the Gaza Strip are not above reproach. War is very messy, and mistakes get made even by the best intentioned and most highly trained armies. But Israel is a democracy, and it does have an independent judiciary that has the ability to investigate misconduct by IDF soldiers, and if it's found that this misconduct was influenced by the words, actions, instructions, or procedures issued by government officials, that can and should be investigated as well. But I want to tell you honestly, there's no military in all the world that follows the rules as well as Israel does. And it's important you all know that and look for yourselves at what I'm talking about. Now, leaving aside all the issues about jurisdiction and international law, it is just outrageously out of order for the ICC to issue arrest warrants for democratically elected leaders who are subject to the oversight of an independent domestic judiciary. It is so obvious that these warrants are politically motivated and that severely damages the credibility of the court. To Prime Minister Netanyahu's point, this also damages the court's ability to go after real human rights abusers, which they've never shown much readiness to do anyway. On that note, Israeli President Isaac Herzog, I really like this guy, added in his own statement that the ICC decision signals that it has made a decision to side with terror and evil over democracy and freedom. Switching back to commentary mode for a moment, friends, I must say that President Herzog has really gotten to the heart of the matter. The ICC, the International Criminal Court, the United Nations, and many of these other agencies have been established over the decades following the Second World War, had noble intentions. They were set up by people and governments who truly believed that this is the best way to prevent another global catastrophe, manage relations between nation states, defend the weak, give a voice to the victims of violence and exploitation, etc., etc. But what has happened instead is that these agencies have all had their core purposes perverted to serve what in many cases is the exact opposite goals than what was intended. In blunt terms, these agencies, which were intended to defend civilization from barbarism, have instead become instruments for the barbarians to attack civilization in general, and in particular, the foundations of Western civilization, especially Israel. I rest my case. There's a lot more to say about this subject, but we're almost out of time for this video, and I need to tell you about the other big story this week, and that's Israel's ongoing kinetic battle with Iran's proxy forces. On the northern border, the IDF is tearing Hezbollah to pieces, and Hezbollah continues firing rockets and suicide drones into the Galilee, causing a great deal of damage and a handful of casualties. The U.S. has offered a plan for a ceasefire in the internationally recognized government of Lebanon, as well as Hezbollah have reportedly agreed to it, but Hezbollah has not stopped firing weapons into Israel, so it's unclear what they really want here. In any case, Israel has already done tremendous damage to Hezbollah, and it's even possible their domestic enemies within Lebanon will finish them off and allow Lebanon to throw off the yoke of Iran once and for all. May it be so. That might be a lot to ask for, but as I say, it's a possibility for the first time in a very long time. Now continue to the tradition of ending these videos with some good news. Hamas has been all but defeated in the Gaza Strip. I believe they had 24 battalions which have been disassembled. The only major stronghold which has not yet surrendered or been subdued is a formation of a few hundred Hamas fighters concentrated in the city of Jabalia in the northern part of the Strip. These guys show no signs of being ready to surrender and appear to want to go down fighting, taking as many IDF soldiers with them as possible. But as I said, once they've been eliminated, there are no other large concentrations of Hamas forces left in the Gaza Strip. So I would tell all of you from Hamas, give us our hostages now, or you shall be finished soon. So people, pray for the hostages to be released. I know some are not alive any longer, but we want all our Israeli citizens back, Jewish and Arab, who were taken hostage, and any foreigners as well. Alongside that, I encourage you all to pray for the IDF fighting in Gaza, as well as on the northern front in Lebanon and elsewhere. God bless you and shalom. And remember, Hanukkah's coming up next month, and we will have a Mariah gathering. If you don't know what that is, just write us and I'll let you know. Thank you.